Now we've got a couple more to look at. Sublimation is one that we all engage in. Now we all engage in all of these to some degree, but more or less depending on what your issues and hang-ups might be. But sublimation is key in developing a socially appropriate persona. You have to put your id in check to live in society. Like I said before, if you can't put your id in check, then you might become a dictator if you're successful, and then you get to do whatever you want to whomever you want, whenever you want, in which case your id dominates, but you have the power to enforce that domination. But in most societies that are run by dictators and where there's a system of justice, a code of justice, we have all defined what's appropriate and allowable or what's not allowable. And so the person who can't put the id in check winds up oftentimes on the wrong side of the law, or becomes a very successful criminal perhaps, because they're gratifying those impulses that other people put into check. How do you put it into check? Sublimation. Sublimation is what we're talking about. Replacing socially unacceptable impulses that aren't acknowledged again with socially acceptable behavior. So if you've got a toddler who's very aggressive and the person is pretty aggressive in their early childhood, well, they learn that they can't just be aggressive whenever and wherever they want. There are consequences to that. They'll be punished for that, and they won't be able to exhibit that kind of behavior without paying a price. So it's not that the aggression goes away. They learn that you can't exhibit certain kinds of aggression in certain kinds of situations, but there are other situations within society where you can gain an outlet, an expression for that impulse. For example, contact sports. For example, you might become a very, very good football player by tackling the hell out of somebody, knocking them over. A great hockey player by checking them a lot of aggression, but it's agreed upon aggression, and people pay a lot of money to watch this socially appropriate aggression. Why is it socially appropriate? Because society allows for it. That's fine. That's what Freud's saying, is society defines what's proper and what's not proper and allows for that to be expressed in various ways. So if somebody's got a really powerful id urge in a way that they're not comfortable in terms of their sexuality, they might express that through erotic arts. So they might draw provocative images or engage in kinds of art, expressions of art, sculpture, photography, etc., that gratifies that impulse, so that it's in an appropriate channel. Some people may disagree about whether that's appropriate. The person who's the most prudish will be probably the person who has the greatest desire towards that kind of expression, but doesn't acknowledge it, and so then is engaging in reaction formation against it. But for Freud, this is just natural, deep-seated human impulses that have been channeled into socially appropriate behaviors and allow for us to flourish and to go on and gain our abilities to be societally appropriate. Projection, attributing one's own unacceptable feelings and thoughts onto others, not ourselves. So similar in a way to reaction formation. This is less severe. So if somebody says, well, I think you're cheating on me, but there's no evidence to support that somebody's being cheated upon, that mere expression of suspicion might be more indicative of the person who's doing the accusing's desires, that they would like to cheat, or maybe they would like to dally about and play the field, but they're not doing it, and so they suspect it in their partner, for example. Or the people who are always anal about being on time. Every one of these people are late. I'm one of those. Why is everybody late? I'm on time. I'm on time. Well, maybe I'd really like to be late. Maybe I would like to be more laid back. Maybe I would like to just not have the responsibility of the care. And so I'm just going to project that onto somebody else and start critiquing them for not living up to my standards. Rationalization, that's pretty common. Creating false excuses for one's own unacceptable feelings, thoughts, or behaviors. Rationalize them. Just make them go away by making a logically plausible explanation. Excuse making, really. So if somebody gets caught cheating on an exam, they're like, well, everybody else is cheating too. Right? They're doing it, so what do you expect from me? Well, that's kind of beside the point that everybody else is cheating. Probably everybody else isn't cheating, but the question is, why are you cheating? And your answer isn't that, oh, well, I have this really deep desire to get an advantage over people without putting forth a lot of effort. So that's why I cheated. It's, oh, well, everybody's doing it, so I do it too. It's an excuse-making mechanism that allows me to live with my cheating by simply excusing it away. And then denial, that classic little cliche, denial is not just a river in Egypt. It's a very profound defense mechanism, simply refusing to accept anxiety-producing realities. So in substance abuse, that's very common. People say, I don't have a problem. You got a problem. I don't have a problem. I don't drink too much. I don't use too many drugs, right? Somebody who might have lung cancer, for example, has been smoking all their life, and they're like, well, it wasn't the smoking, it was something else that caused it, right? It's not that. So the reality being fairly obvious to other people, the person who's faced with the reality can't face up to the reality. They simply change the reality by denying its existence. So those are some of the defense mechanisms that we would talk about in the Freudian psychoanalytic system.